Look, our goals first and foremost are to educate, but to educate in a way that is telling the whole story fully, accurately, completely, authentically, not to let politics interfere, but to say what actually happened. What actually happened
Right.
in totality? And who are all the people that made a difference in this nation, regardless of their ethnicity?
Welcome to Being the Change, the official podcast of James Madison University, brought to you by Madison Magazine. Each episode brings you stories of how members of the JMU community combine intellect with action to live lives of purpose and meaning. That's being the change.
What's up, JMU? Welcome to Being the Change. Andy Perrine here. Today we've got a very special guest on the podcast. Carly Fiorina is connected to the university. She's on the board. And if you don't know Carly Fiorina's name, Carly was one of the first women CEOs of a Fortune 20 company. She ran Hewlett-Packard for years and has had a storied history as a business leader. She's a philanthropist. And she's also the National Honorary Chair of VA 250, which is aimed at celebrating the 250th anniversary of our nation's founding, which is called the Semi-Quincentennial. Did I get that right?
Well done, Andy.
Thank you, Carly. But most important of all, Carly's granddaughter is a senior graduating this year from JMU, so she knows this place inside and out. Well, welcome, Carly.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Glad to have you. So why don't you tell us about VA 250 as the honorary chair? What are we trying to accomplish here?
So let me start by saying that most people, most Americans, actually are unaware that next year is the 250th anniversary of our founding. But it is the semi-quincentennial, as you said. I personally had to practice that for quite a while.
I practiced this morning.
And yes. And Virginia has a very special role.
Indeed.
Because it is factually, historically accurate to say that without Virginia, there would be no America.
Mm-hmm.
America was made in Virginia. The first colonists arrived, the British surrendered here. The first encounters with Native Americans occurred here. The enslaved first arrived here. The first representative government, the first experiment with entrepreneurship. We can go on and on.
Right.
And, of course, every founding document that matters. The Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution was written by a Virginian. And George Washington, yet another Virginian, was of course, the father of our country, the first president. So Virginia has a very special role, and we have been leading the nation, really, in thinking about how to appropriately commemorate this very important anniversary. Let me just first say, if I may, this big fancy title, National Honorary Chair. All that means is I'm a volunteer.
Right.
And I volunteered for this several years ago at the request of both the Virginia legislature and the Virginia governor, because I think it is so important that as a nation we remember a shared history, a common story, and that we know what our founding ideas and ideals are. And most Americans don't know any of that.
Right.
And it matters especially in this nation because we are the only country in human history not founded on ethnicity or territory or religion or tribe, but founded solely on ideas, ideals, and a system of government.
Right.
And so when we don't know what those are, and most Americans don't,
Right.
we don't know who we are. And then our differences drive us apart.
Right.
Because we have no unifying set of principles or ideas and no shared story. And that's why I think this is so important.
Well, and especially now, the country is so divided. We had Peter Levine on the podcast just recently of Tufts University, and he was describing the research that's been going on since the 60s that show on both sides, this is symmetrical. Democrats think less of Republicans, or Republicans think less of Democrats, more so than ever. We're not just wrong, we're evil to each other. How important is the Virginia 250, VA 250 celebration in these very divided times?
I think it's critically important. And let me say two things. One, for people out there who think history is boring, let me just remind everyone what we all do when we gather for a family dinner on a special occasion. Inevitably, we talk about our family history. Inevitably, a family starts to talk about who came before us. And the reason we do that is because we realize unless we know what came before us, we don't know who we are. It's why genealogy websites are important. It's why 23andMe is so popular, because people know in their core, if I don't know where I come from, I don't know who I am. If I don't know who I am, I don't know where I'm going. And that's, of course, particularly true for our nation because, again, we're not founded on anything but a shared story and ideals. It is also true when you look at our history that we have been bitterly divided as a nation at other points in our history. So, for example, at the time of the Revolution, the country was not united. There were a lot of colonists who thought revolution was treason, not heroic. The enslaved were, of course, not just enslaved, but that community was divided because they were given an opportunity to fight for the British and earn their freedom, or they could stay on the side of their enslavers. And so many of them, the majority of them, chose to fight for this powerful idea that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That idea is so powerful, so world-changing, utterly radical at the time, still world-changing. Even though it didn't apply to the enslaved, it didn't apply to the Native Americans, it didn't apply to women, it only applied to white male property owners, and yet the power of that idea unified enough people, not everyone, enough critical mass to win a revolution against the most powerful empire in history at that point.
Against all odds, right?
Against all odds. And the power of that idea has propelled us forward. And so in these incredibly divided times, I think two things are worth remembering. Number one, we have always been a divided nation because we are a pluralistic nation. We've been divided over religion, ethnicity, status, class, politics. We've always been divided over those things, and yet we've known what holds us together as a nation. And so we have to remember that now.
That's the critical importance of VA 250.
I think so. And I think, look, our goals first and foremost are to educate, but to educate in a way that is telling the whole story fully, accurately, completely, authentically, not to let politics interfere, but to say what actually happened. What actually happened in totality? And who are all the people that made a difference in this nation, regardless of their ethnicity? Our goal is to engage with every community. That means geographically across the nation, as well as throughout the Commonwealth, but it also means with every ethnic community. And finally, our goal is to inspire. Because the ideas upon which this nation was founded are, in fact, inspiring. And these radical ideas, or even, of course, James Madison, the author of the Constitution, ideas like intellectual property, private property, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, these are radical ideas, earth-changing ideas. And they've inspired every movement towards human dignity and equality and sovereignty everywhere ever since. Here's the thing that's so unique about this country that too many Americans have forgotten. In this country, citizens are sovereign. Not political parties, not presidents, not governors, certainly not kings, citizens. And it is up to us to work towards forming a more perfect union. It's up to us.
Right.
And so being the change, as it were.
Right.
And so if we don't know who we are, we don't know what those founding ideas and ideals are, we don't understand the power we actually have as individual citizens, then we're not going to do our job. And so ultimately our goal is to also be inspiring.
Right.
And so we have designed events that inspire.
Yeah, get into how folks can get involved.
So the first thing I would say is go to va250.org. You'll see an amazing video called America Made in Virginia. But guess what, Dukes? You're also going to see that here because President Jim, as well as all the other presidents throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, have agreed to play this amazing video at sporting events.
It took my breath away.
It's a wonderful video.
It is.
In fact, when we put it out on social media, I'll just brag for a second, we get a 99.8 click-through rate.
And completion rate too, probably.
It is mesmerizing.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Because it's accurate, it's uplifting, and inspiring.
Yeah.
And so go on to va250.org. Right. We have all kinds of events in 134 localities all throughout Virginia. Of course, we're going to have an awesome 4th of July, but this is about so much more than the 4th of July.
Well, it's very event-driven, and I think that kind of engagement is really what can inspire people to feel these ideals. And so it's really important for everybody in the audience to follow Carly's recommendation to go to VA250 and find those events. And finally, Carly's on our board, and so she helps to guide the university. How important is it for folks who belong to the community surrounding James Madison and his legacy? How important is it for all of us to deeply engage with this?
I think for James Madison University, to let this commemoration just pass it by would be such a loss. Everything about this place is around engaging students in being the change, solving problems, making the world a better place. That's what this is all about here. That's what Dukes are all about. As citizens, we have more opportunities than we realize to actually solve the problems right in front of us, to work with our fellow citizens to help form a more perfect union and make things better. And we so often sit back. I would truly love to see James Madison University not only be the pilot of university engagement in this commemoration, but also be the inspiration for other student bodies and other universities. I think the guy you're named after would be proud of that.
I think that's right. And to our listeners, I did not ask Carly to say that. That was all on her own on the Being the Change podcast. Well, Carly Fiorina, it's been such a pleasure to have you here. And thank you for your engagement. Thank you for what you're doing with VA250. Thank you for entrusting us with your granddaughter. And we're very happy that you were here.
Well, it has been a pleasure to be on the podcast. It's always a privilege to serve on the board. And my granddaughter just absolutely loves it here.
That's great. Well, remember, listeners, if you have an idea about other topics that you want us to cover on Being the Change, you can reach us at beingthechange@jmu.edu. Until next time, go Dukes.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe to hear more stories about how members of the JMU community are being the change. Dive deeper and explore countless other stories at jmu.edu/Madison Magazine. Go Dukes!
The Being the Change podcast was conceived by Jim Heffernan, editor of Madison Magazine, and me, Andy Perrine, head of JMU Marketing. Thanks to Jenna Polk and her team at the Rose Library Studios, where the show is recorded by Cody Troyer, Steve Adderton, and Olive Santos, all of the crazy talented JMU photo video team, who then produced the final episodes at the Ice House in downtown Harrisonburg. Original music by 2019 alumnus Neil Perrine. You can find the Being the Change podcast on all the popular platforms where we hope you'll like, share, and subscribe.